Then, if you want to revoke that, you've got to do both steps. And this is what you were saying at the, toward the beginning of the question. We wind up with an S corporation. That's true. If you file 8832, then you have revoked the S election, which takes you one step back. So now you're at a C corporation, right? Excuse me, when you revoke the S election, when you file the paperwork with the 1120S, that takes you one step back. Then you have to file 8832 to go from C corporation back to default.
Would
So
you recommend that we file sorry to cut you off,
yeah, no, no,
file
no, go ahead.
8832? Would you recommend that we file 8832 along with the
The,
termination
the,
letter that
the
we
statement.
attach?
Yeah, yeah, you have to do
The
both. You have to do both if you want to get back to the default, right? So if it's an LLC and you want to go back to sole prop or partnership, you have to do both because the 2553 got you two steps, right?
Hmm.
It got you to the association and then to the S corporation. Filing the statement with the 1120S to revoke the election just gets you back to C corporation. The 8832 is necessary to get you from C corporation back to default. And so that looks like this. You're going to go, you're going to say that this is a change in current classification. Then you're going to go to 2A. And then you're going to say, has it previously filed an entity election that had an effective date within the last 60 months? And this is where you can get in trouble because if if that's true, then it's going to be hard to get back. So let's say that it did, right? Let's say that it elected S within the last 5 years. Right now, go to line 2B. Was the eligible entity's prior election an initial classification election by a newly formed entity that was effective on the date of formation? And this is what can save you because if it
Right.
was an LLC as default, and then the 2553 was the only entity type election. That was the initial classification, right? That was the initial classification election. So then you can say yes and go to line 3. Notice though, let's say you filed 8832 to make it a C Corp. And then a year later you said, let's file 2553 to make it an S election, which could happen, right? That would have been a second election. It wouldn't have been, right? Then you have to say no and you stop. You got to wait until the end of that 60-month period, that 5 year period. But a lot of times, if you're an LLC, file 2553 S Corp, you can keep going with this. And then that gets you out of it.
Jeremy,
Yep.
so, okay, if I have someone that we want to make 24 the last, so what, it's been over 5 years though, so,
Then you got no problem.
oh,
Yeah.
okay.
As long
That's
as it's
just
been,
that 5 year
long as
thing.
it's been more than 5 years, you're fine. Yeah.
Okay.
And
When
that ties back to the so there are two 5 year rules. The first one is you can't make a subsequent election within 5 years, right? The second 5 year rule is once you terminate an S election, that entity can't elect S again within a 5 year period. And that's the one that we often hear about, right? But both of those are important. They're both important. Basically, the gist of it is, the service doesn't want you coming in and changing the tax entity type of this entity every couple of years, right? And flipping back and forth. We want some stability here. So, yeah, you got to look at has it been at least 5 years since, any subsequent election? And then if they want to terminate, if they want to revoke the election, are they sure that they're not going to want to go back within the next 5 years? Right. And we've got several clients in this situation right now where they're just, business was good a few years ago. It's tapered off. There's no value in continuing with the administrative cost of an S corporation. So let's get back to sole prop where they were before. And that's what we're helping them with now.
Jeremy, quick
Yep.
follow-up question. It's like how we have a late C Corp election, late S Corp election. Is there a late revocation?
That's
Like
a
like a retroactive revocation under
as
some
far as
set of
I know, no, not. And so there is not a late revocation. The revocation is due, it's the same uh, construction as the due date for the actual return. It's the 15th day of the third month after the effective date, right? So if you've got a calendar year S Corp and you want to revoke, then that revocation is due by March 15th, of the next year. You would include that with that return, right? To revoke for so like right now you've got an S corporation in 2025. You want 2025 to be the final year, so the revocation is due by March 15th of 26. Right? And then that revocation is going to be effective as of the end of 25. Um,
Do you know
if
if we file an extension, does that also kind of
the
extend the
extension
revocation?
it doesn't work for the
No.
revocation. It doesn't work for the
No.
revocation because this is what I'm saying. It's not based on when you file the return. It's based on the effective date, right? It's the 15th day of the third month after the effective date. So if you want that revocation to be effective the end of the calendar year, it's got to be by March 15th. Um,
Would you paper file this return, 1120S, along with the letter, along with the 8832,
not well, the
or
20 that 88 not
let's say,
necessarily, not necessarily the return. I would probably still e-file the return, but the 8832, I mean, you could attach it to the return, but I would definitely send it in on its own as well. Probably along the statement has to be attached to the return. The revocation statement has to be attached to the return. Um, but I will say
so just
this,
attach it as a PDF.
if you yeah, just as a PDF, right? If you Okay, so let's say you miss March 15th. And we did this past year. Say you miss March 15th and you don't wind up filing it till I don't know, June, right? You calculate based on when you're actually filing it, how much of the year, right? What's the shortest part of the year so that the effective date is still, you know, 2.5 months basically prior to when
Yeah.
we're actually filing it. And then that portion of the year is going to be a short year S Corp return. And then the rest of the year is going to be a short year C Corp return. Unless, right? And so that's what 5 here is telling you: taxable income for the short year described in subparagraph B, which is back. Oh, subparagraph B, sorry. Yeah. Anyway, you're going to wind up with 2 short year returns that are going to equal the whole year. A lot of this is in the regs. The regs for this section are pretty lengthy. You will have a partial year S Corp return, and then for the rest of the year, you'll have a C Corp return. Unless you also file the 8832, and then you don't have, so that the 8832 is effective the same date of the revocation, and then you would just bifurcate between the 1120S and either the Schedule C or the 1065, whatever the default that you get back to is. Right.
Let's say if we were to do it timely and just do it on December 31 and we're doing it before March 15th, everything
Mm-hmm.
like it's done properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so when you're filing, let's say the 2024 or 2025 tax return, which is going to come up. So on December 31st, that's the date that you're selecting for the revocation. And if you're filing the returns in Feb or
You
March, you do
um
1120 PDF, the letter with it.
Yeah. So we're going to say that the revocation is effective. So the revocation, you want the revocation to be effective the first day that you don't want it to be an S Corp anymore. So the revocation, so let's say it's calendar year
Yeah.
2025, find that it's S Corp. We don't want it to be S Corp in year 2026. You're going to file that revocation as of January 1st, 2026. And then for all 2026, it's going to be not an S Corp, basically.
So instead of December 31, you would do Jan 1 as the revocation date.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the process of doing that 1120s e-file, PDF, attach PDF.
Mhm.
I know in some softwares you can also attach the 8832 or e-file the 8832 along with it. So we e-file all three and then also paper file 8832 along with a copy, I guess, of
Yeah, I
the
mean, you could do that. You could do that.
last
Yeah.
mark it
Yeah.
as last
We
record.
usually send elections in separately. But then, there are a couple cases where I've attached them to the return also. I don't think it hurts. Um,
Yeah.
so to show you, again, back to the so what dates are we actually thinking about? So for the S short year, if this is if we terminate part year, the portion of such year ending before the first day for which the termination is effective, right, is S. So
Yeah.
that's a weird way of saying the effective date is the first day that it's no longer an S corp, right? So
Hmm.
January 1st would be the effective day of the termination if for all of the following year you didn't want it to be an S corporation anymore. And then the portion of the year beginning on that first day, right? So the effective date of the election, it's whatever else you want it to be. Right, is the way to think about it. And then if you do have to do this part year thing because you missed the March 15th deadline or something like that, then you've got two options. You do a pro rata allocation, so you just take the whole year's P&L and however many days, the fraction of days out of 365 that it is an S corp, that fraction of all of the income, expense, uh, credits, separately stated items, all of that, that fraction of all of that goes to the S corp return. The other fraction of all of that goes onto the other return.
Thanks so much for joining us. We really hope this session was helpful for you. If you enjoyed this and want more support on your tax professional journey, consider joining one of our Pronto Tax School memberships. As a member, you get to join weekly live mentor sessions just like this, access tons of advanced tax courses, be part of our private member groups, which is great for networking, grab special discounts for our live events, and even get tax business growth coaching. There's a lot packed in. Check out the links in the description to see the details for our Dream Team and Forever Edition memberships. We'd love to have you join our community.